You're listening to the world's smartest podcast network.
When I go to Sacramento, I will pump up Sacramento.
Some say the news is fake. Others say it's real. These two don't have the time to check. Instead, Turner Sparks and Michael Ira Kaplan turn to comics stationed around the globe to be their eyewitness reporters so that you can know what's really going on. This is Lost in America.
All right, everybody, welcome to Lost in America, episode 219. My name's Turner Sparks.
I am Mikhail Kaplinsky.
You can find me at Turner Sparks on Instagram. You can find Kaplan at Kaplan America on Instagram. Also find me at turnersparks.com. This show is at lostinamericapod.com. Kaplan, on the show today, we have Oleg Denisov back to explain. So Navalny, there's an update with Navalny. Navalny was as we know, he got poisoned by Putin. He's an opposition candidate, politician leader of Putin's. And you don't want to do that in Russia. You don't want to be running against Putin for anything, because if you do, you end up getting poisoned on a flight to Germany. He ended up getting poisoned. He hung out in Germany for a while, recovered for a few months.
And then he came back.
To Russia bold. Once he was fully recovered. And you also don't go back to the place where they poisoned
the bear. He poked the bear that by doing that, I think, a little bit. You're kind of asking, it's kind of like going out on a date wearing a really short skirt with a guy who's got a bit of a record. No. You're really asking for trouble here. I mean, he went to Russia, he went back, and what happens?
Walking down a dark alley in 1970s Manhattan by yourself after going to see Cats. He went back to Russia and he got sentenced to prison. So we're going to talk about that, what's going on. But before we get Oleg in here to explain all that to us, Kaplan, Patreon, this show. Well, first of all, the way you can support this show. I know, listen, we hear it all the time. Everyone loves this show, okay?
Everybody.
Big deal. Put your money where your mouth is if you love this show. That's what I have to say. Because we have, yes, sometimes we have sponsors. We do today. But the real engine of this show is our Patreon subscribers. They are patrons of the arts. Some people support this show. Some people subscribe to our Patreon page because they just like us and they say, hey, I can throw those guys $5 a month, $10 a month, because they're putting out good content. I like the show. I like to support small business, which is what we are. Support small business, as they say in America. And then other people want to give us $5, $10 a month because they want something for it. Well, we got something. For $5 a month, you get Kaplan and I 3 times a week. Besides this show, 3 extra shows a week doing our 30-minute comedy podcast live from the bunker. And speaking of Patreon subscribers, we have 2 new Patreon subscribers this week, Kaplan. So shout out to Michael Lawrence Jr., not Mike Lawrence, the stand-up comedian in New York City, but maybe his son. We're not sure.
Surely his son.
Now, Mike Lawrence, a comedian, is about 40 years old, maybe 35 years old. So if this is his son, this is an 8 to 10-year-old. So that's, we're an all-age podcast here.
Yeah, we are.
And shout out to your favorite, Abe Schmidt, Cap.
Abe Schmidt. When you become a patron, we start talking business ideas. Abe and I are going to open up a deli. I've got some ideas. I drew up the menu while I'm here in Florida. I'm talking to a lot of old Jews. I'm telling them about Abe's. They want to make sure there's going to be celery tonic, Dr. Brown soda. We got the whole menu planned out, Abe. So just hit me up. We'll talk on Patreon, and that's what we do. We make business plans together. So welcome to the program.
Can I give you an idea for the name of Abe's Deli?
Is it Abe's?
Honest Abe's.
Honest Abe's Deli. I like it.
Honest Abe's Deli, Kaplan, but that's also what we do. We get on the other show. We get personal with our listeners. We go back and forth. They send us hate mail. We respond to them personally. We come up with business ideas. We make millions over there. So join Lost in America Patreon.com/Lost in America. $5 a month gets you the show plus a ton of other stuff over there. Now, also we have something to celebrate. We went to number 1 in Pakistan this past week.
Number 1 in Pakistan. It's been the talk of the Kaplan family is very excited. I mean, the waitress comes over to our table and says, how you guys doing last night at dinner? And Teddy Kaplan says, my daddy has the #1 podcast in Pakistan. Everybody
How am I
is
doing?
just-
How do you think I'm doing? I have the #1 podcast in Pakistan. That's how I'm doing.
We're shouting it from the rooftops. Everyone is very proud of it. It's a real accomplishment. We're #1 in Islamabad. And this is when we set out. Did we ever dream it? Did you believe it?
I mean, I was hoping for, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, but Pakistan. I mean, that's a whole nother level.
Pakistan's where bin Laden retired. It's a bigger deal than Afghanistan. That's where he worked. Retirement's where you want
We
to come
should go
for.
play.
So
His cohorts are probably still around. We could do. Is there a cat skills of Pakistan? We could go play the retirement.
Well,
the
his
retirement
bunker.
communities.
We should play his bunker. That would be the ultimate live from the bunker.
Live from
Pakistan.
bin Laden's bunker.
The fortress, yeah. So it's got good acoustics in there. He used to put out videos. I saw him. So yeah, congrats to us.
That would be the one show that I think would, the only show that might piss off the New York Times and Breitbart.
Yeah, well,
neither one of them would be happy with us if we did live from bin Laden's bunker. But
can I tell you, I'm not happy with the New York Times right now. So that's
okay. Why?
I get the feed. People there are people out there who listen to other podcasts. Can you believe this? I mean, they're
shocking.
A friend of mine. I can't believe. I'm not even gonna say the name. I'm not gonna dox this person, give them the credit. But a friend of mine tweeted out an episode of The Daily the other day and said this was a really great episode, and it was about the New York Times podcast, The Daily. They do news.
The Daily. It sounds like you're saying the deli, like a
deli.
Abe's Deli.
Abe's Deli. And you know what the title of this episode was? Their title was France, Islam, and laicite. And I
say that word again.
I couldn't say it when we did the episode. I still can't say it. Laicite. And I said, where does that sound familiar? Oh, right. We did the exact same episode like 3 months ago. I mean, and
I'm glad you're bringing this up. The New York Times rips us off consistently. A listener, I forget what episode it was, but a listener sent us something the other day. They go, you should do a podcast about this guy who got arrested in India, this comedian who got arrested. It's all over. Oh, like maybe it was a New York Times article. These people, they're reporting, they're breaking the news in the New York Times. I said, we broke that news a month ago, buddy.
Yeah, unbelievable. It's they must be listening to us. I hope Abe Schmidt is not a burner account name for the Michael Barbero guy or whatever, the Daily. That's what, they're lurking. They're listening to all of our ideas. They're stealing them. And you know what? I'm going to steal one of their ideas. I'm going to, the Daily producer was the guy in the air, the Daily, was gay, and then he married his producer, a female, an affair with her, female reporter, became straight. I'm going the other way. I'm going to have an affair with producer Matt in honor of this.
There you go. Good for you.
Stealing their bit. He's very handsome.
He's a handsome man. That's a deep cut. That was a long way to get to that bit, but I like it. Cap, let's bring it all. Oh, so we're talking about Navalny here. Oleg is the owner of the Steal the Show comedy club in Moscow. He's a comedian based out of Moscow. He tours the world doing comedy. He's been at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival many times. I believe the show is called Russian Troll, the most famous one he had at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which I want to see if we can ever do comedy again. I'd love to see that. StealTheShow.net. You can check out his club. Oleg, welcome to the show. What's going on with Navalny?
Yeah. Hey guys. Great to see you one more time. I think it's the third time. Yeah, we're doing this.
It's the third time. That's what we do. If we have a story, we don't mind going back to it. If the story develops, we develop with it. We don't just forget it and let it go. So
yeah, of course, because it is developing. It keeps developing, and even now, I think over the last hour, it's still got new developments because now it's really? The nation's favorite series. Fuck Netflix.
Yeah. Oh, you got something a lot better than Netflix. So when we started, I think the first time we had you on, he had been poisoned.
Yes. And then we talked about how he how he recovered, how he I think that's actually interesting. We only talked about when he recovered and when they released the investigation of the murder squad, FSB's murder squad, and how he called his one of the members of that squad himself, and we talked about that.
Yes,
but we didn't talk about anything that happened past this point, which includes the investigation about the palace of Putin and his him returning to Russia and getting into jail.
Well, let's start
from
there.
And the protests which ensued.
Okay, so just to
Yes.
catch everybody up, as we said, he got poisoned. He was a political opponent of Putin's. He got poisoned he felt sick on a flight, right? He was on the flight when he felt sick.
Yes.
He went to Germany. He was in a coma for a couple months because of this poisoning. He recovered, and then he released this video, which we were referencing, which is on YouTube, or I don't know if it still is, but it was on YouTube.
Yes, it is. It is.
Where he went hard after all of the FSB, which is the new version of the KGB, basically, right? And he went hard after them, releasing names, all this evidence as to how they specifically
names,
poisoned him.
addresses, phone numbers. And like the jewel on the crown was when he actually, like on the day on which the investigation was released, but they didn't know about the investigation yet, he tried his luck basically and called a few members of that killing squad. And like most of them said, no, we're not going to talk. But one of them was caught off guard and actually talked to him because he used very simple technology of how you change your number to like FSB head office number or something like this. And he talked to him, even though he's like the agent's not supposed to talk, only supposed to talk on like some special like protected line and not just on a regular phone. But he still managed to get some information out of him. So what happened after? He announced that he would be returning to Russia, and he returned. And in Russia, the situation was like that's the reason why he actually wasn't able for like the last 2 years, wasn't able to run for president or for any office. And like his closest, like the members of his team did, some of them. But because he had a suspended sentence, he got like he had a trial a few years ago about like embezzlement or money laundering, this sort of stuff, as most of the political critics in authoritarian regimes, that's what they get. They never get accused of like being political opponents. They get accused of like some dirty
bullshit charge.
They find something. So was the money laundering? Is there any credence to any of that? Is that
well, the European Human Rights Court already to which Russia is supposed to be subject of as well, the Russian justice system, they already confirmed that this is a political case and he shouldn't have been accused of it. And the Russian government even paid partially the compensation to him because they have to respect the decisions of this court. But still, because he had suspended sentence this whole time, he wasn't able to run for the office. And that was the main point of this whole thing. That's why he got this sentence. That's the main reason. So basically, when he returned, and it was already when he announced his return, it was already quite clear that what is the line that Russian government will take on this probably is that he wasn't, he didn't respect the terms of his suspended sentence. He didn't check in
parole hearing or something.
Authorities. Yes.
That's so rich because he was poisoned, right?
Yeah. I mean, the guy was just in a coma. He could have kind of find 5 minutes, to check in with his parole officer.
Like, isn't that the ballsiest thing you ever heard, Turner? Like,
I didn't realize that was it.
Yeah,
that's
why he's in jail.
I've been reading about this story for the past couple of days. I somehow missed the part that the reason why he's being arrested is because when he was in a coma, he wasn't checking in with his parole officer.
It's amazing.
I mean, you got to hand it to him for a sense of humor, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And balls, just pure hubris.
So basically, they didn't charge him with anything new. It's just this parole which he broke the rules of, and that's why he's in jail now. But now they're trying to add some more to that. But anyway, if we come back to that, but what happened basically? What happened basically? Of course, he announced the plane on which he's coming. He came. And he's supposed to come to. There's 3 airports in Moscow, 4 airports in Moscow, but 3 like main international ones. And of course, like at the airport, there was like in the airport there was this huge mess. Like the police wouldn't allow because of the COVID regulations, they didn't allow any journalists in. They didn't allow any people in who didn't have tickets. They kind of like so they were kind and even. Despite that, a lot of people gathered outside the airport in the cold. to meet him. But obviously, last moment, they just redirected the flight to a different airport, which was also kind of expected, which is also kind of screwed up a lot of people's plans. But who cares?
So
just basically they
other
redirected a few flights on that day to the different airport just because of Navalny.
Wait, and people didn't know if you're on the plane, you didn't know you were going to be landing somewhere else?
No,
just.
Oh, yeah.
This
is just a passenger plane, like a Delta flight or something.
You're like, I parked.
Yeah.
I parked in the other lot, though.
It's a low coster, basically. It's so and Moscow
I got somebody
is
picking me up at the airport.
Well, Navalny got picked up, so to speak, by the police.
Nice.
Everybody else just took their chances, I guess. He was rejected, and in Moscow, it's actually a huge distance. Actually, it's 100 kilometers, something like 100 miles, because the airports are on the different sides of the city, outside the town, outside town, on different parts. So it's completely, So basically, what happened is that as soon as he went through the customs, he got arrested.
Just right away.
It was very, and this was very sort of it was still documented by some journalists and bloggers who kind of had the foresight to go to a different airport. And it was, he hugged his wife and he got taken to jail. And that's it.
Wow. And so did he know? Yeah, go ahead.
But it's not the end, because all of this thing is really surreal. I mean, even for our standard, I can't imagine how it is for you, really. Even by our standards, it's screwed up completely. Because what happened next is he got taken not to one of the Moscow, what's the English name for the place where there's people are? It's not jail, but it's the isolator place where you get before a
holding cell. We call it a
holding cell, whatever. Yeah. So it wasn't in the center of Moscow, but it was in Khimki, which is a little satellite town of Moscow. So he got taken there. And he spent the night there without any phones or anything. He wasn't able to call his lawyer or anything. And then he just got taken out of the cell, and he comes into the main room of the police station. And he sees that the court is happening there. So there is a judge and the prosecutor
in the police station.
Yes, because they use some 1960s law, Soviet kind of possibility in the criminal code that in some cases, if blah 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 sometimes court can do a session not in the court but in some other public building and stuff. So nobody has ever used it for 70 years.
Wow. COVID restrictions, not the reason?
No, not the COVID restrictions. Just
and his lawyer, was his lawyer even there?
Yeah,
did he have a lawyer
his lawyer.
There?
He met his lawyer only in the court, so they weren't even able to communicate before it happened. Right. So the lawyer was there.
And do you guys have juries?
Well, sometimes, but not on this sort of case.
Not in this case. Yeah,
not
okay.
for this guy.
So, no, a lot of for him is a lot of
it's 12 Putins. It's Putin's daughter, Putin's cousin. That's the 12.
They could have a jury, a guy from FSB, a guy from the police.
Trump.
They're all different professions. Yeah.
Wow.
So he got basically. It was they admitted that he broke the terms of the parole by being in a coma and being in Germany.
Unbelievable.
And they put him to jail for the rest of the sentence, which is I think 2 years and something.
I read 2 years and 8 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And this, what you see if you're watching this on video, is what you see in my background is the photo from the rallies, which happened after that. The rallies, which were, of course, not allowed by the government
to support him.
To kind of to support him and to support, like, in general, we have a lot of political prisoners, but just, of course, mostly it's because of him.
So
it was, and that happened not just in Moscow, and that was the biggest surprise probably to Putin and to everybody. It didn't happen just in Moscow and St. Petersburg, but it happened in a lot of like regional centers around, like across Russia, like starting from the Far East and like everywhere.
We saw them in like Siberia, right? Okay, like
not just in Moscow and St. Petersburg. Of course, they were the biggest ones in Moscow and St. Petersburg because they're just by far the biggest cities. But it happened everywhere. And I went to this one on Pushkinskaya Square, the main sort of square.
You went to it?
Yes. I actually. I was going out more and more because actually I had COVID. It was my before that I had I had COVID on the last day of 2020. That was my go away present
for 2020.
Bye 2020. Bye Oleg. There you go. It's a virus. So I kind of spent my New Year's holiday and. Ill. But that's kind of meant that I'm now immortal and I can do anything.
So is Kaplan. They're in Florida. He's on vacation in Florida right now.
Are you saying you got it in one of those protests, or?
No. It was before. It was before. By the time I wasn't.
So now you can do it. I got you.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably have done it anyway. So
I would have told if the police came up to me, I'd say, "Oh, I have COVID. I'm trying to infiltrate here and get everyone sick." So let me.
First of all, when when he was coming back, when he landed, was the assumption from you or just like the general public that he was definitely going to get arrested? Did everyone know for sure he would get arrested?
Well, yes. It all depended on kind of the versions were like from him being arrested straight off the plane or in the airport or him taken under house arrest or anything like that. But it kind of every version contains some sort of a detention for him. And
is that because the media kind of, I know like the general, or what do you call it, traditional media is on the side of the government, state run.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So was the traditional media kind of putting it out that, hey, he's committed these crimes, he's broken parole, so you shouldn't like him when he comes back? Or
yeah, but that's the thing, though. We kind of missed like the important part of the puzzle when we were talking, because like what happened right after he was arrested is that he released, like his team released the new and by far the most popular investigation, which is called Putin's Palace, the history of the world's largest bribe. And it got 100, I think by now it got like 120 million views or something
on
like
YouTube.
This. Yes, and most of them from Russia, of course. Like not all of them, but more than a half from Russia. So the justification for this was that he didn't. Of course, it was ready long before.
Yeah,
but he released it when he got to Russia and he got into prison because he didn't want didn't want people to think, that he's releasing this while sitting safely in Germany.
Why? So who cares?
Well, that's why he's an important politician and we're not. That's because he understands how to do it. Because that's that had a much greater effect, of course. That he, while already taken by the police, he is already defeated. But then he delivers the most striking, the biggest strike. And so these protests were, of course, fueled not just by his imprisonment, but also by this investigation as well.
So what did it talk about and I want to get to you at the protests in a minute here, but what did it talk about in this thing about Putin? It was kind of revealing all of his secrets? There was a private palace or something like that somewhere.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the information about this palace, I think it's the first information about this palace which exists and which is kind of like first they try to deny it, but now they kind of try to just cover it up and saying, oh, it's not for Putin and like whatever. But the point is that it was first revealed in, I think, during Medvedev's presidency, like about 8 years ago, and it was revealed by one of the contractors of this, and he provided all the documents and like how everything worked, how the schemes work, how it was financed by like bribes from oligarchs, and like it was supposed to go to some kind of developmental projects or sort of like charity projects, but like it never actually got it, and like all the money went into a huge like $1 billion palace for Putin. But that was kind of buried for a while for some reason, like, you know.
Yeah.
But now what Navalny did is he because the project was ongoing, like it was getting, like the palace was getting built and rebuilt, and like more money got into it. So now Navalny basically revealed everything, like every like benefactor of this, like all the schemes, like who paid which money when to whom, and so on and so on and so on. So basically now it's very vivid and very clear, like what is there. So that was basically like the most and that's the most popular, by far the most popular investigation on his channel. So
he's showing the corruption, the clear corruption of the Putin regime.
Yeah, and not just regime, but most importantly, that is for Putin himself, because that's the usual line of defense by Putin. He doesn't talk about it himself, but that's how kind of that's how he's seen by, like, that's how he's presented by like the television and, you know, the state media, that, oh yeah, well, there are some officials which are corrupt, you know, they're corrupt, yes. And even Medvedev is kind of corrupt, you know. Remember what Navalny showed about Medvedev? Well, he kind of, but
they
Putin,
use it then?
but Putin is not. But
this is what the state media will say. Yeah.
Yes.
And what about, I read about TV Rain. Is TV Rain, they said that TV RAIN, like the rain, TV Rain is an online, maybe like a YouTube channel that most people under the age of 40 get their news from. Is that correct?
I don't know about most people, but the point is, like, TV Rain was the sort of liberal, free thinking channel on some, not on the main like line of TV channels, like First, Second, and so on. But it was working in like big towns, and like during Medvedev, like during that time, like of relative liberalization. Yeah, and then after Putin got back to power, they found a way to stop like financing it and kind of to get this channel off the network.
Oh.
So now it exists as it's not on YouTube, but it's on sort of like a streaming subscription thing.
Okay,
it's still,
but young people are who are they? The audience, the young people.
Yes.
Because I guess the idea being that it almost like if you watch, I find it interesting because I understand a country that says, okay, all media is free, everybody say whatever you want, and nothing's controlled by the government. I also understand when a country says 100% of the media is controlled by the government. But the Russia model, I don't totally understand, because your TV, your traditional media is controlled by the government, but then online, you guys can do and say whatever you want, right?
Well, that is changing. First of all, like I think the reason why it's not shut down is because they monitor it very closely at how it's the same with Navalny, right? When he got poisoned, he was a nuisance for a long time.
Yeah,
but he wasn't perceived as dangerous, and so now, while the biggest part, like the majority of the country, the people over a certain age are influenced by television, and mostly by television, sometimes by television alone, they don't see the need to control the internet that much. but they are thinking of it, and they already laid down the groundwork for this, the new legislation and the new technical possibilities. And so, as Prime Minister revealed, like I think he said, a week ago or something, that yes, we are ready to get cut off from the World Wide Web, so it would be just like our own internet, and it would work.
Russia would have their own internet?
Yes. Yeah.
Like the China model.
And and the groundwork for that was laid over the last few years. They know what they're doing. You should give it to them.
They have less viruses that way. It's
We're gonna get into. I want to in just a second. I want to get into your experience at the protests. But before we do that, Kaplan, Oleg, have you heard of? Do you know Magic Spoon?
Is it the one with cocaine?
It is not.
Yes. No, it is not.
But it's better. It's better than cocaine. Yeah. Magic Spoon is our sponsor. It is our first ever sponsor. We've been doing this show for 4 years. We finally got this company. We finally got a sponsor, and Magic Spoon stepped up to the plate. So we want all of our listeners, if you want us to continue to be able to do this show, support Magic Spoon. Go to magicspoon.com/lost, LOST, for $5 off your order when you put in Lost at checkout. And I think Lost just comes up anyway when you go to checkout. But it's cereal. It's grain-free cereal. Basically what it is, when we were kids, I don't know how they did this in Russia. You might have had the same experience, maybe different. But in America, we're all fat slops. So when we're kids, the cereal's all full of sugar, and your parents just feed it to you. They're like,
they give you chocolate, strawberry cookies. They give you all sorts of crap.
One that tastes, it's like cinnamon. It's like toast dipped in cinnamon, and then that's the cereal. Did you guys have sugary cereals as kids?
We had the possibility, I think. In my childhood already, we had a bit, but mostly it was unsugared.
Well, okay.
The Russians. That's why
we also had that. Yeah, that's the way to go. So Magic Spoon should go to Russia because it would be very popular there. But anyway, so that's what we had. There was also that option when we were kids, and that's what my family made me eat, was the unsugared, which would be fine if I was in Russia around everyone else who wasn't eating sugar. But I'm in America with all these fatty boombaladdies eating sugar all day, and I get jealous of them. Now, Magic Spoon has come up with the perfect blend of both. It is all the flavor of the sugar cereals. It tastes like the sugar cereals, but it's no sugar. It's grain-free, zero grams of sugar, 3 net grams of carbs, 11 grams of protein. It's like eating egg. It's the same amount of protein as eggs. So now you don't have to drink eggs.
And you don't have to, I'm a big weightlifter. You could see me here in the video. I've been drinking protein shakes my whole life. Protein shakes, you got to put milk in a thing. You got to put the powder in. I literally, it's such a pain in the ass to do a protein shake. This is so much better. You could mainline it, take cereal, like you said. You can take a whole fistful. My blender, you know what I do with my blender? I smashed it. Smashed it on the ground the other day, threw it out. Not even a lie. That's a true story. I broke it, threw it out, done with the blender. I can't, my kids are upset. I can't make the milkshakes anymore. That's another story. So I'm done with protein shakes. This is where I get all my protein in the morning. It's Magic Spoon. And they have big news turner we need to break to our audience. We have a new flavor.
Gigantic news.
Yeah.
Blueberry is out. Peanut butter is in.
They've
peanut butter flavored cereal.
Yeah, it's sold out. They released it in limited edition in 2020 a couple times. Every time they did it sold out immediately. So these guys, they're smart. They said, you know what? The people have spoken. And you got peanut butter flavor, and they've got the cocoa flavor. You put them together. Do you guys have that in Russia? The Reese's peanut butter cup thing, where you put it, you make a peanut butter cup. It's
we don't eat peanut butter. We don't have.
Oh my
tradition.
God! They don't eat peanut butter.
You don't eat peanut butter at all?
No,
even after the Cold War is over, eat some peanut butter. Come on,
seriously, indulge.
I think Coca-Cola found a way to our market, but peanut butter didn't manage.
Listeners, somebody be a listener. Send Oleg some peanut butter Magic Spoon. He needs it, or some peanut butter.
What Kaplan's trying to say, I think, is if you mix the cocoa flavor and the peanut butter flavor into your cereal, it tastes like eating a peanut butter cup, a Reese's peanut butter cup. And I can say that because that's not another cereal brand.
That's not a cereal. No, that's not a violation of our terms. We went over
That's not a violation. MagicSpoon.com/lost. 0 sugar, 13 grams of protein, 4 grams of carbs, keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, which is bad news for all you idiots who like to put soy sauce in your cereal, but everybody else, low-carb, GMO-free. I don't even know what GMO stands for, but I don't have to worry about what it stands for. It doesn't have it.
You don't want GMOs. It'll mess your whole life up.
140 calories per serving, Kaplan.
Yeah, and I'm not waving the box in the video because I'm on the road right now. But show it up. Show them what it looks like one more time, Turner. There it is. Look at that.
Here's the box. I've eaten all of mine. This is an empty box. Magic Spoon, if you're listening, I need more cereal.
Send us more.
They sent me 4 boxes. They can't send Kaplan 4 boxes. We sold out right away. Cap, also, here's an important point. We only have a couple of these left. I think this is our second to last ad with them. The only way they're going to keep advertising with us is if our listeners buy this cereal. So go to magicspoon.com/lost and get $5 off. But buy it for, we used to say buy it for you. Buy it for us at this point.
No, and we should say they offer, we forgot, 100% happiness guaranteed. And we know this is true because we have a listener, Jose, who wrote us in a letter, and he said he bought the Magic Spoon. He said, I won't say the flavors names, but he said 4 flavors, 3 of them he loved. One of them just wasn't for him. He didn't like it. He wrote
I think it was blueberry, the one they got rid of anyway.
Yeah. He told them, he said, look, I love the product. Just let you know, I don't like this one flavor. It wasn't for me. You know what they did? They said, full refund. Not 25% refund because you didn't like one flavor. 100% is the guarantee. Happiness, 100% it is. They give him all his money back. So
now all of our cheapskate listeners are going to just send back 1 box and keep the other 3 and try to get all their money.
If all of our listeners, is it actually worse for us if all of our listeners buy it and then return it? Because then they're losing money on us. So don't do that. I'm just saying it's an option. Happiness guaranteed is all I'm saying.
Okay. That's it. Russia. Magic Spoon. Just come on, renew with us. Okay. Now back to Oleg. What was it like? Now back to
good
the
segue.
Show.
Wait, now a word from your local sponsors.
Oh yeah. Now Oleg, sit right there. Now a word from your local sponsor.
From my local sponsor. Yeah, I thought of a slogan for that. Like if we sold it in Russia or just in general, I think how to, like, for this cereal is sort of like don't get fat but still have a childhood.
There you go.
That's good.
How does it sound in Russian? How would you say it in Russian?
Не будь жирным, но все равно, чтобы было детство.
Dun, 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 dun.
Eat like a fat American, but not. Yeah.
And we should have like a fat American crossed out like this.
Yes.
Like
a cross-eyed, stupid fat American.
We are ready to bring this cereal to Russia. I love it.
Mouth breather. Let's get it.
But it's so funny because it's reminding me of the, like, because you were talking about all these flavors, and I still haven't got like completely the full kind of, flavors and smells after COVID. Like it's been a long time, but I still kind of don't have the sense of smell, which is exactly the same as it used to be. And I remembered, it was the weirdest sensation for me. Did you have that?
I didn't lose my sense of smell. My wife did though, which was great around the house because I didn't have to shower.
Well, you know what can cure your sense of smell is a little fruity Magic Spoon.
Yes,
put it right up to peanut butter.
Maybe. but I remember it was such a strange sensation for me because at this time I figured out that probably the way we kind of perceive our brain is a little bit wrong because usually we have this idea that we have like this sort of animal brain which just wants something, and then we have sort of like a conscious brain which makes a decision to do something, and then I realized that we have something third as well because after 3 days after I lost my sense of smell and taste. I had this thought. I haven't eaten anything tasty for a while, and I was like, that's strange. Okay, so I'll go online. I order some food delivery. I ordered some food to cook something tasty, and I paid the money. And then I just went, hang on. So it's kind of, I think we have a third thing, which is like a social media brain. Like an app device sort of brain, which just does something without consulting with the others. Because the animal brain went, oh, I want to eat something tasty, and then the device brain just went, oh yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. And I did it. I paid the money, and then the conscious brain just went, guys, have you been watching the news for the last 12 months? But the point is, I didn't get it completely now. Yeah.
Wow.
even now.
It's different for
You
everybody.
still
It's
can't
amazing.
smell. That's insane.
Yeah.
Well, that helps when you're out in the crowds at a rally. You don't have to
Yes,
smell all the,
yes.
you know.
Smelly people.
So
Yeah.
what was that like?
Yeah.
In the 'cause did
Mhm.
the people? I guess in general, did the people immediately? Are people split on this? Are there people saying, "Well, Navalny belongs in prison," and other people saying, "Well, come on, this is ridiculous"?
People who are at the rally, of course, they all kind of were, they had solidarity about this point. But sometimes you just get, surprised at how, like what sort of people actually would think that Navalny is like a criminal and he should be in jail, because like it's not as simple as like, oh, this is the TV channel for like people over 40 from the big towns who think this and that. It's not as simple, especially in Russian society. It's not as simple. I used to have a talk with a friend who's like an English journalist here, and she said she kind of complained that she says like, oh, I have a friend, and she's like a normal and adequate, and like she's like a party girl, like big city party girl, and now I stopped talking to her because she was going on about how Navalny is a criminal and should be in jail and so on, and I said like, well, like you, as you said, she's a party girl, but just in a different sense,
Right. Party girls.
Yeah, that's a true story.
Wow.
But in general, yeah, it's not as simple. But people who were at the rally, of course, were solid, like had solidarity on this, and a lot of the the imagery that they used in their posters or the just items that they brought with them were referring mostly to the film about Putin. The main symbol of this, the main symbol of the protest became actually a toilet brush.
Why is that?
Because in the film it says that in the on the farthest end of like Putin's sort of like estate, in a place where they just make wine and stuff, and like he never actually goes there himself. So basically, it's like the least important building of the whole thing. The toilet brushes in the toilet cost 1,000 euros.
Wow.
Because they come from like a factory. Yeah, like literally like golden toilet brushes. Yeah,
Sure.
So toilet brush became like the like I bought a toilet brush. Everybody bought a toilet brush, and it was the main symbol of this.
Did you feel like it was dangerous to be there? I mean, I read like 2,500 people got arrested at these rallies.
More, especially on the second one. There's even more. I think the police, like this time it went, I think Putin kind of mixing up with Lukashenko recently a lot kind of helped him find a way to deal with this, because now it has been probably the hardest and the most violent behavior by the police than ever before.
How normal is protesting usually? Like, is it? Because in my mind, I didn't think they protested. You were allowed much in Russia to freely protest.
Well, the point is that it's kind of they did this trick with the legislation. Of course, in our constitution, we have this idea that like every people can peacefully, without arms, without anything, can gather and rally and speak their mind and whatever. And this is in the Russian constitution, yes. But then they kind of passed this law about like mass gatherings, which it says that to organize some kind of rally or mass gathering, they should notify the government. It still doesn't go against the constitution, so that they need to be notified, not to ask for permission. But on practice, they say, we notify that we want to do it here, and they say, oh, we actually have like a flower festival here, or like whatever, and so you can't do it here, you can't do it here. So, but you're welcome to a rally like outside town on some former like tank training ground or whatever. Like literally.
Yeah, 10 miles outside of the city, no problem.
Yeah.
Because I was impressed.
In practice, and then they changed the language of this. So, firstly, it would be a rally which is not permitted, and then it's now they call it illegal, which is there's no such thing as an illegal rally, but since all the state media has been calling it illegal, that they try to form the opinion of the people who watch the state media that these people are criminals and they deserve to be beaten up by the police and put in jail.
So did you feel like you were in danger at all?
Well, everybody was in danger. Like, I mean, of course, the closest you are physically to the police, like their vans and everything, the more you are in danger. I wasn't in the immediate danger, but you are always in some sort of danger, And many people after this were detained for a long time, and this was also the difference because all the like temporary cells for this sort of thing in Moscow were full. So they would take them outside of Moscow, and people would wait for like a few days without food in the vans, and like just pissing on each other,
in vans
on the floor. Yeah.
Yeah, we saw videos of people like I saw them here of people like throwing snowballs at police officers and whatnot. And
there was a bit of that. But the point is
bravery, but were they all? I'm sure arrested afterwards.
Yeah, but the point is like there's never been this harsh, and so many people who grew up in like. Like there is a lot of problems with freedom, but they never actually, spent like 10 days in a cell for 8 people with 30 people in.
Yeah.
And and in prisons in Russia and all sorts of like cells, they're horrible. They're kind of like they don't have a proper toilet, and it's just basically the room, and there's a hole in the corner, and that's it. Like that's where you do your business.
Have you gone to prison for any of these rallies?
No. But one of the comedians which performed with us actually went there for about 10 days this time. And so, I think on the first rally, he got detained and he spent about 10 days there. And it was like he needs to get some, as he says, like not therapy because Russians don't believe in therapy, but some kind of like
Vodka?
A time. Just a time on his own to kind of get used that he can actually go to the toilet without 20 people looking at you.
Oh God, we can get him. There's a lot of
normal.
There's an abundance of therapists in New York City. We can get him a Zoom therapist.
Yeah. He wants to be a comedian in American. You do therapy. That's part of the shtick. So.
But it's not because you got put in prison for 10 days in a Russian prison.
Because your mom was mean to you.
Yeah, your mom was mean to you 30 years ago and nicer to your brother. And so now
I got this poetic image a little bit from this first rally, which because on Pushkinskaya Square is the first McDonald's which opened in the Russia. That one.
Where's the Carl's Jr.
The 1980s one? Yeah. And during it, of course, during the rally, like they didn't admit people to at some point, like because there's too many of them, didn't admit anybody in to eat, but you could get in if you say the magic word, which is gonna go to the toilet, please. Because McDonald's is, I don't know how it is in America, but in Russia it's primarily a toilet, and then like everything else, like a free toilet, because we have like not enough of them. So free toilet is first, and everything else is just like some kind of fluff that you Americans use to break our natural cultural code and stuff. So and so the point is, right, I wanted to finish this bit that and everybody went there, and people the protesters went there, and the riot police in full equipment also just went, can you go to the toilet, please? And they kind of went down the stair. We all went down the stairs, side by side, and there was no hostility. It was and like standing at the urinal next to each other, there was no hostility. I remember
urinals unite people.
Yeah, you remember in in the Book of Jungle, by Rudyard Kipling, they had such thing as the water truce, is when there's not enough water in the jungle. The predators and the prey, they all stand side by side at the river, and nobody attacks anybody. And that reminded me of that. Like if you need to go to the toilet, there's no police and rioters. It's just people.
It's amazing, and that's really like such a basic necessity that ultimately in this entire protest for Navalny, McDonald's employees are the real ones in charge. Because if they don't let you
they're
in,
going to negotiate the peace deal.
They don't let you in. You can't go to the bathroom, and then you're done. Whether you're a cop or whoever you are.
That's a.
So, did you see people getting arrested while you were there?
Yes, a lot. And sometimes people try to kind of, grab them, kind of, I mean, in conflict. Like in Russia, that's the most important thing. And this is the thing which unites, like, which is common in Russian and Belarusian protests. Unlike, for example, protests like in France or in America, that they're completely non-violent. There's literally nothing violent about them. There's nobody, like there is a video, or basically there was one guy who was from Chechnya, but he got very agitated, and he actually had a fight with a police officer and kind of, kicked some ass. And, we all for him, of course, but he's obviously going to jail for a longer time for this.
Right. You don't there's no violence because there's real consequences, what you mean. Like,
I mean, but there's no violence because people, they don't, in post-Soviet countries, like with all the civil wars in the 20th century and all this sort of like history of repressions, people are not quick to jump to violence. And, and he did that just not because he premeditated, just because he just kind of got agitated really quickly because he's like Southern, blood and this sort of thing. He just got, into a fight. Yeah. So the point is, like, they're completely non-violent, and there is a video, like quite a horrible video in St. Petersburg, and just people are carrying like a guy into the van, and like a 50-year-old woman just comes to talk to them. Going, oh, why are you taking him there? What did he do?
Yeah.
And then the policeman just kicks her in the stomach and just falls, and she just goes flying and concrete.
It was like that a guy we had in America, that old man who got knocked over.
Yeah.
It was awful. That. I saw that. Kicked her in the stomach. Yeah.
But that's the difference, because in France and in America as well, the storming the Capitol, everything is people, and in general, people are actually able to have, like, they can have guns with them. In Russia, like in Belarus, the protests are completely peaceful, and like there's not a single video or any sort of evidence which would prove otherwise, apart from like some incidents which clearly aren't premeditated, like the one with the Chechen guy. Yeah. And so the police violence is completely unjustified. And so what they do is they try to, make people fear, make people afraid to go to peaceful rallies, which they have the right to, and
what
a lot of,
At your comedy club, do they have to watch what they say on stage and stuff like that? Or is that still totally do whatever you want, say whatever you want?
At this point, yes, because again, like even YouTube, it doesn't get that much censored, and whatever happens at a live show for 50 people doesn't really bother them. But of course, we understand that this is all, and the freedom of internet, the freedom of kind of performing at a club, is just relatively safe as long as they don't see a threat, and they already prepared everything. If it becomes a threat, if they see it as a threat, I think they already see internet as a threat. So that's why all the recent measures.
Oleg, I know that feeling well, based off my history in comedy and the country I used to live in.
In China.
Yes, it was. We always knew we were okay until we weren't okay. And we knew that not being okay could happen at any moment, at any time. And finally it did happen. And nothing happened to us personally, but the club got shut down and all that stuff.
Yeah.
We were just kind of like, we'll exist until we can't anymore. And while we're here, we'll have fun.
Yeah.
That was kind of it. What about the movement? I've read that Navalny's movement, now that he's in prison, does this stop? Do you think this is gonna, I don't know if anti-Putin's the right word, but I guess anti-Putin, anti-corruption movement, do you think it will keep going, or does it need Navalny to keep going?
Well, after the rallies, they detained and arrested a lot of members of his team. And they try, of course, they search for every opportunity to put them away for a longer time, but mostly it's going to be for a short time. And of course, like with him in prison, it's harder. But the point is that, the sentiment against Putin is not going anywhere. Like the negative sentiment against Putin, it's never going anywhere. It's just growing. And the recent polls, even by the state
lower than ever, right?
Polling agency, it shows that the support is still falling, and especially for amongst younger people, it's really low. So this is not going anywhere. This is not changing, and that's it's kind of like a lockdown. Like there's nothing to do. They can't make these people, and as younger, every new generation will be completely against Putin. Nobody will change that. The same as within Belarus. It's just gonna be, for now. It seems like they are just taking the hard line. Just it's physical violence. That's it.
It's the numbers on that I read were in 2018, Putin had 49% approval rating, and now 2.5 years later, he has 29% approval
Something
rating.
like that, yeah.
So it's dropped by about 20%, 2/5. Cap, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, is Navalny, what type of prison is he in? Is it just like he has is it like a hard, like he has no access with anybody or people? Or
he's supposed to go to the colony, which is, I think we discussed the colony thing with you maybe, or didn't we? So it's kind of like, it's not like the hardest type of prison, like it's not like where murderers go, but it's kind of where people who kind of commit fraud and this sort of stuff go. So it's
white collar criminals.
It's more relaxed. It's usually somewhere in the fresh air, and you do some tasks. And you're allowed to see kind of visitors, and like it's not the hardest type of prison anyway. Right. But now he's still not there because they're now suing him for another reason, which they also started like before he got poisoned. But basically, there was like it's a ridiculous thing, and he's kind of making a show out of this whole trial himself, and it's really funny because basically what happened is there was a video where a lot of people, sort of different professions, and kind of like mostly just people from the Russian establishment and like actors who support Putin and this sort of thing, and they it was a video about how good it is the constitution reform is, how good the constitution reform is. And they all talk about like, oh, it's the one which prolonged Putin's terms. And one of the people who actually was in the video was like a veteran of a Second World War. He just was there for like 5 seconds or something like this. And Navalny in his Twitter, he just posted a comment on this video, like this video with the comments. So like these are all kind of like bad people and like they're lackeys and traitors and something like this, who like promote this constitutional reform. And so now they're suing him for libel against the veteran of the Second World War.
Oh my God!
Which is doesn't make sense again, even by Russian standards. And so now he's kind of still in Moscow in court. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
It does seem like
they get every opportunity to what can we sue him for actually if he didn't actually commit any crimes,
I mean, it reminds me of like if you have a company and you're like, well, someone's just super annoying in the office and you're like, well, we need to fire them. They haven't done anything wrong. Just no one likes them. So let's spend the next 6 months trying to figure out every little thing that they're breaking, build up a case on it, and then we can fire them 6 months from now. It's what about his social media? He seems incredibly savvy with social media stuff. Like the videos he's putting together. There's also that video which I shared on our Twitter. You can go check it out now, Lost in America Pod on Twitter. Of the lady, one of his cohorts, when she's being arrested, she's playing Beethoven on her piano.
Yes.
They're coming in to arrest her.
It's not one of his team actually, but she's like a leader of a union, like a doctors' union, like because there's no actual unions, like professional unions, right? In Russia, and like it's been like this since Soviet times, because like there were, of course, it was all about workers and unions, but all the unions were curated by the KGB or somebody, and they were not actually like a free organizations. And so now they kind of maintain the same. And if people try to organize an actual union, which is possible and legal, they try to kind of shut it down and kind of say it's like a legal organization or something like this. So she's the head of the union of doctors, and she became very popular, like exposing how the local hospitals are kind of understaffed and don't have the masks and gloves and anything. So and they would collect money from people and buy this equipment and then bring them to the hospitals, and the local hospital the heads of the hospital didn't like that, of course, and they called the police, because that would mean that if they don't have enough, that means that it's their fault. They took the money, which was
arrest the whistleblower is the we do that sometimes too.
So I remember the video that you're talking about is the one she's playing the piano. Yeah.
It's this amazing video. She's sitting in her home calmly playing Beethoven as a raid. The police are coming in, raiding her house, and then ultimately arresting her. But what it showed me is she knows that if she's playing, she knows that that's going to be a more exciting video to watch. And then that video will be shared. It'll go viral.
Right. It's savvy.
And then people, it'll get attention. And it seems like, I guess she's not directly related with Navalny, but Navalny has this history too. He seems to have mastered, and I guess a lot of people have seemed to have mastered this social media thing.
He and his whole team, and there's a lot of people behind it. Of course, like a few people, very important people for online functioning of this whole thing, are of course not in Russia, because they had to flee to. I think Volkov is in Germany, and somebody else as well, I think, is in Switzerland or something. Because if everybody was accessible, they would just arrest them all and stop all of it. So people coordinating the online activity, of course, have to be outside Russia. Because otherwise it will just they will find a way to arrest everybody. So they are, and I was thinking about that, and I actually was just recently I noticed this thing, and I thought of this kind of phrase sort of a bit about like how I changed, for example, from being a comedian to being like a comedy club manager, and stuff. So now I kind of see I say like I it's just you get into a different way of life, and you get used to different things. For example, I used to be like this edgy political comic who was like kind of abrupt with people, but now I'm a comedy club manager. I need to kind of make connections and be more friendly. So now I became more friendly, and there's now literally only two categories of people that I actively dislike. It's just the comedians and the audience, and this is all.
There's an American saying that business would be great if you didn't have customers.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. So the point is, like, what the impression that I got, that all of these people, Navalny and all of his team, all of his office, and this I don't know her name, the union lady. Over the last years, they got arrests, raids, like breaking in the doors, police taking all the equipment from the office and never returning it. A couple of times a month they do it, and questionings and everything. For them, it really became a routine. That's the thing. Like for them, it's really a routine. They know how to back up. They know how to make it work so that the work still continues, the activities, the investigation still continues. They have these people in Europe who kind of coordinate. They have servers there, so the work of the organization doesn't it suffers, but it doesn't stop. So and that's why they kind of it's a reality they live into, I think. And they're very kind of strong people, obviously, for kind of living it, and keep being creative in this situation. But it's just they used to it. They just so it's another raid. Need to refresh my piano skills.
They're used to being raided.
Yeah, they used to being raided. For them, it's like for us, is going to get groceries.
Well, for them, is it even
for
more?
Them is get raided.
Yeah, is it even not even so much about Navalny, so to speak, as being being like anti-Putin, right? And trying to. I mean, is there when is the next election? I forget from the last time we spoke. When would Putin actually be up for an actual election?
24.
24. Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Is there a hope, like when you're at the protests and stuff, is there genuine hope that something can change, or is it people feel defeated?
Well, no, I don't think that people feel defeated, but now I think we see, like I was thinking about that as well. I was thinking about the fact that this is it, basically. Like, especially if we not even take Russia, in which, even if we organize completely fair elections, like now, I mean, like, it's not fair because of history. Like, we wouldn't kind of, like for the last 10 years, I mean, it would help Navalny, for example, if he runs for president. It would help him if for the last 10 years, some of his team were in the parliament or somewhere. But okay, if we're putting all that aside, if we have a fair elections, I think Putin actually might win, of course. Maybe by 51
legitimately.
or 50, legitimately,
Right,
not with 80%. Not with 80%, of course. He would win, most probably. He would lose on the next one, though, I think. But the point is, for example, if we take Belarus, where it's completely clear that nobody wants to see this fucking guy anymore.
Yeah.
And he even very slightly admits that himself. He just says, "Oh, if you're tired of Lukashenko, but let's change the constitution. Let's wait until elections. Let's do this. Let's do that." So he kind of gives them a hint that he might.
Yeah, Lukashenko would lose if there was a legitimate election.
And he did. He did lose. He did lose,
Yeah.
and he would lose. And still, what can people do? What can people do if he has, several, tens of thousands of people, of police, army, who he pays, and they're not a subject. They're not like, an actual political subject, the army or the police. They're just, they're just people who the government pays to, in this case, to protect them. And that's it. And what can you do if you have no, you have no weapons, you have nothing? In Belarus, for example, they shot, like, there were videos of them shooting unarmed people in the street, and they die. What else can they do? There's like literally repressions. There is people it's kind of like a new gulag there. Like, there was this detention center where people got tortured, and everybody knows that because Belarus is a small country, and they tell their friends and relatives, and they tell their friends and relatives. Everybody knows that this is basically like a fascist regime, which nobody supports. And what can you do? You have no weapons. You have no nothing. You can't go on the street every day for a whole day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we have a guy, Misha Kaplan, who comes on this episode on this show and talks about it. Who's a Belarusian comedian in Belarus.
Yeah, and I was thinking, in Venezuela, the guy is still in power. Maduro is still in power, even though they are much more decisive people in South America, than in Belarus. And he still managed to maintain power exclusively on the account of him having armed people to protect him. And so there is no positive example of this sort of like new 21st century, like mostly like natural resources powered authoritarian regime toppling because of people not supporting it anymore.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
there
it does feel
are
like
some of them. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say in Russia, it does feel like Navalny has, as Turner was saying earlier, he's captured this kind of like brilliance as far as getting a movement going, where it's almost not about him, but there is a person. You need like a person on the side. You talk about Venezuela, and but it could be years. I think is the
in Venezuela there was a person, but now he's also lost his power. Yeah, he's gone. Yeah. Well, I think that everybody understands that on the next election, 2024, nothing significant will happen.
Yeah.
But it's just about time. It's just about time. I don't know. Maybe something will happen. I mean, I don't think people are getting like particularly defeatist because many people kind of knew people who are interested in politics, people who are kind of against Putin, they know how it is. They know that they will never let Navalny run for any sort of office. So,
and that's where there's people here who are just kind of like useful idiots or whatever, who are like nitpicking things Navalny has said in the past.
Of course, a lot of them.
And he's not perfect. He's imperfect. He's done some nationalist things. But I think that's missing the point. That's kind of playing into Putin's hands here.
Yeah, of course. And there are a lot of this. There's a lot of those people. But and Navalny is. I mean, what I like to say in this case is that. The reason why Navalny is the biggest and the only literally like opposition leader who is now active and who can challenge Putin, if you don't like him, because is just because Putin closed all the ways for for more intelligent, for example, or more more intelligent, more sort of like refined opposition.
Sophisticated.
To actually,
He's got rid of them already.
Sophisticated opposition. No, he's not got rid of them, but the legislation they put forward in the last years, they kind of they stopped any possibility of civilized political process. So obviously, Navalny, you may like him, you may not like him. But he's basically he's big, he's loud, he knows about internet. And he's not a thinker. He's an actor, right? He acts. He's not a huge theorist. He has, he has people to help him, of course, but he's not like this sort of sophisticated opposition. But that's the only one who can actually try to break the wall which Putin built. And if
also,
you want more sophisticated opposition, that the Putin is the one not letting them be heard. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it seems like whether you agree with him or not, you should agree with the idea that any opposition is allowed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Of course.
That's just a basic. I want to wrap it up here because we've gone long. By the way, it's super fascinating. Thanks for doing it.
If you go.
It's flown by. The hour's flown by. But what have you guys heard about foreign reaction to this? Are there sanctions coming? I know Navalny has called for sanctions against Putin and Putin's cohorts, his group, which now that could be seen as treason. Navalny's committing treason against the country and could get 20 extra years in prison for this. But does it look like the EU or Germany by itself or the US or anyone do you know of? Is any sanctions coming or anything?
The sanctions?
Yeah,
sorry,
meaning like the EU will say, okay, well, Putin can't spend his money now in the European Union or something, or we will not import these certain things. Like, are other countries reacting to Navalny being put in prison?
Well, as far as I know, yes. And that's what the recent statements of the prime minister were about, like about the internet. Yeah, is that in case, basically they're kind of now going into the open conflict about this with the European Union and with everybody. They just say, if you do some sanctions, we'll be fine, like something like this.
Okay.
So basically Navalny called for personal sanctions. He called for personal sanctions, mostly not even for, that's his idea, which is simple but brilliant. That there's no point in kind of making sanctions against some kind of KGB general who never goes abroad anyway because he thinks everybody's gay there. And he's irresistible. Like this.
He's irresistible.
So
if he went to
says,
France, he'd be mobbed.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Yes. So he says we make sanctions against the wallets, the money owners, those oligarchs and like semi-oligarchs who finance this palace, who finance all the illegal activities, because basically they are the real, like all the Putin's friends, like and even like people like Abramovich, Abramovich, right? So the one who bought the football club in England.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Chelsea.
It was a long time ago. It was Chelsea. Yeah, it was 15 years ago or something. And they're they are the people who actually use the natural resources of Russia, who live usually outside Russia and invest that money there. But in order for them to keep getting super rich because of Russian natural resources, they pay enormous bribes to Putin and to his, to the whole system. So he's called for sanctions against those people, mostly like the people who are legally they're not in government, but really they are the decision-making people.
Yeah, I think there was another guy who bought the Brooklyn Nets, who play right down the street from me, Mikhail Prokhorov.
Yes,
he sold them.
Yes,
he ended up selling them.
He sold them a long time ago. Yeah, maybe not. I don't know.
But
But I think he's one of the guys who were kind of smart enough to kind of distance himself. He got money. He didn't become the richest one, and he kind of distanced himself from
Just enough
this.
to buy
So
an
he's-
NBA team.
Yes, he's not in
Too
the.
rich.
He's not in the list of names to be sanctioned.
Got it.
But
Okay.
some others are. Mhm.
Well, thank you so much,
that
man.
note-
This has been great.
I feel like we're gonna have to come back to this again down the road. We just keep
We like half the stuff we didn't even get to.
Yeah, we had a lot.
Yeah,
So
but
this is awesome.
watch the film. Watch the Putin Palace thing.
Yes.
I think it's.
Oh yeah, Putin's Palace, and
Quite
it's
interesting.
translated, subtitled in English, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. All right, I'm watching it right when we get off.
because
the
we
air
got a
here.
dumb audience. We need that. So
Not a lot of Russian speakers in our audience. Thank you, Oleg. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you,
Everybody, go get some Magic Spoon. Subscribe patreon.com/Lost in America. Join Michael Lawrence Jr. and Abe Schmidt. Come on.
the gang.
The whole gang over there. Cap, that's it. What should we do?
I'm in Florida. I gotta go to the beach, so I'm gonna get lost.
Get lost.